What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got 3 true creepy school lockdown horror stories. Let's check this out. Alright. Number 1.
There used to be this kid at my school named Blake. Blake faced a lot of bullying from pretty much everybody, both behind his back and directly to his face.
This nigga do sound like Mr. Nightmare.
It's not like he didn't deserve it though. He was prone to violence and often got in trouble for screaming in teachers' faces, because he was clearly indoctrinated into some crazy ideas that went against what they teach in school.
Okay.
I guess that means it's not totally his fault for how his parents raised him, but that never stopped anybody. Blake was just as physically repulsive as he was in conversation. He almost got kicked out of school for harassing a girl pretty badly after she rejected him for smelling like hot garbage.
Damn.
Only that had
Nigga,
gone
don't
through.
be mad because you smell shitty and the hoes don't want to talk to you,
Some things
nigga.
would have ended differently.
Just go home and take a shower. You'll be
I
alright.
started one day when I was in history class with Blake. He stopped the class to dispute something the teacher said about the Civil War, and it ended up becoming a huge thing. The teacher was pretty cold with shutting Blake down with the facts, humiliating him pretty badly.
Damn.
This led to Blake screaming a bunch of stuff about how the country had been ruined. Then we all collectively laughed him off, and
So
he stormed out
one
of the
them
school.
niggas.
That was a Friday. Over the course of the weekend, Blake posted a bunch of stuff on his Snapchat.
Okay.
Pictures of him holding pieces from his dad's gun collection, which he was known for bragging about extensively, and pictures of him posing in front of a Nazi
After I
flag,
would've saw that, I'm not going to school for the next couple days. I'm gonna keep it a buck,
which was
bro.
also his dad's, I assume.
Hell nah.
But the worst part of all was a photo of our history teacher, printed out and taped to a cardboard box, which he used for target practice, with the caption, "Getting ready for school on Monday."
Yep. You want
posts
to
were
saw
pretty
me at
chilling.
school on Monday.
For years, people had joked that Blake would do something like that one day, but nobody ever thought he actually had the guts. Several people reported the post to the school, but what they should have done was report it to the police.
Nah, dead ass.
Nobody, including myself,
The
took
fuck,
it
like,
seriously
the
enough.
fuck the school gonna do? Like, honestly, the school don't be handling situations like that good enough. I'm gonna keep it a buck, bro.
If I had, there was no chance I would have gone to school until he was taken care of. At school the following
I'm doing
Monday,
it in-
from what I heard afterwards,
And how many
Blake
hours?
came to school
1
late,
hour?
during 5th period, when we had our American history class. He wasn't able to get into class like normally. He was confronted by the school resource officer and a couple of admins who demanded to search his backpack. That's when he drew the pistol and shot the resource officer and ran off. I
What
heard the shot from the other
fuck?
side of the school. Everything went silent.
Damn, I ain't gonna lie, bro. That nigga need to charge his phone. That shit on 1%.
Moments later, the lockdown order went out. We all knew it was Blake. I looked at my teacher, who was white as a sheet. All
Why
I
would
could
y'all
see
even
were the
go to
bullet holes in
school,
the
though,
picture of
knowing
his
that
face
he was
from
gonna do
Blake's
that?
post in my head. After a few seconds, he regained his composure and went through the procedure of locking the door and turning out the lights, then ordering all of us to hide out of sight. Not a moment too soon either. We all knew Blake was heading for him, and all of us by proximity. I barely had time to think to myself about how those dumb lockdown drills weren't so dumb anymore. Blake made it to the classroom door in under a
Man,
minute.
but one thing about those lockdown drills I don't understand. Why the fuck? Okay, so turn the light off. That's good. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? But having us all sit in one spot so the shooter can come in there and air out all of us at one time and get a 20 kill ratio, bro. Really? Hell nah, bro. You gotta spread the fuck out. Somebody hide in the closet. Somebody hide under the desk and shit like that. Not all of us sit in one spot, bro. I never understood that.
Started banging on the door and screaming.
That shit is dumb.
I know you're in there,
gonna
I'm
lie.
not an idiot. People started crying into their shirts to keep quiet. Others took out their phones and started live streaming or texting their loved ones, assuming they wouldn't survive. Even I started to think that way.
Niggas used to be
I
loud
couldn't
as
think
shit
of
during
anything to
these
do.
type of situations.
I didn't even have the presence of mind to think of what I might do to fight
We had an
or
active shooter
protect
on campus
myself
one
if he were to
time.
get inside.
He'd never gotten to school though,
My
but
mind was too frayed, and it all felt so unreal. The only thing running through my head was the fact that I was about to die while sitting on the tile floor of my high school, cowering in the darkness in a huddle of students that was about to become a pile of bodies. Suddenly, a shot rang out. The crying became screaming and everyone started to panic. In the moment, I made a split-second decision and ran over to the window, opting to jump from the second story, instead of just sitting there and waiting for Blake to come in and shoot me. A bunch of kids followed me, but then I fumbled around. Somebody else shoved me out of the way because I was taking too long and
Oh,
sent me to the
fuck.
floor.
No, shit, nigga, I would have shoved his ass right back, nigga. The fuck?
That's when I looked back through the door and noticed something. Blake was holding his face with both of his hands and the blood was seeping out between his fingers. The door handle on the inside was lopsided, like he had been trying to break in. I sat there, staring, just trying to make sense of it. In the chaos, the teacher was yelling at us to get away from the windows and get back to hiding. He started calling my name because I wasn't moving, and that's when I blankly said the words. I think Blake shot himself. I said it pretty quietly for how loud the classroom was, and I said it like a husk. But enough people heard me to stop what they were doing and go silent. A friend of mine ran to the door and looked out the window right as Blake was running
that's
away.
dumb. I ain't gonna lie. You not seeing me run to no damn window, nigga.
I finally
Fuck
got
that.
up and stood there next to him. Blood was splattered across the floor, and in the newfound quietness, I could hear Blake's cries of pain echoing through the hallway. Stupidly, and against every bit of sense I had, I tried to open the door, but it was broken.
Good.
Not just locked, as all doors are
What
supposed to
idiot
open
would
from
do
the
that
inside.
during an active
It
shooter?
was broken.
Being on campus, like
We were
what?
trapped inside the classroom, but at least Blake was gone. Hours later, we were finally freed and slowly learned what had happened. Blake tried to open the door by shooting the door handle, but he ended up mangling the lock completely shut and causing an explosion of metal shrapnel, which flew up right into his face. A
God.
piece of twisted metal got lodged in his eye, blinding him, and that was the end of his rampage.
Dumbass nigga.
A lucky
Karma's
break
a
for all
bitch.
of us, and it goes to disprove the myth that you can open a lock just by shooting it. Blake surrendered before leaving the school and was tried as an adult. He'll be in prison for the next 20 years at least.
That's not even enough.
The resource
bro. I'ma
officer
keep
he
it a
shot
buck.
also got lucky and recovered without serious lasting effects to his health.
20 years ain't enough for a school shooter. I'm sorry. Alright, number 2.
My high school is near an area with a lot of gang violence, so lockdowns were a rather common occurrence. However, the one event that sticks out in my mind when I think back didn't actually have anything to do with that. The only time I actually felt scared wasn't because of a fugitive or a shooting. It was because of a student who everyone already knew was dangerous. His name was Jason. He was one of those kids that was crazy smart, but had a lot of problems with authority, focusing, socializing, and so on. I'm sure everyone knows at least one kid like that
Look,
from
we're already
school.
seeing a common pattern.
He got
too, bro.
suspended
If
for
you know,
bringing a
you
knife
know.
to school once, and then
I ain't gonna
expelled
say
the
too
same
much.
year for trying to strangle a teacher with a shoelace.
Huh?
He came back the next year, though, after going to an intervention school for several
Strangling a
months.
teacher with a shoelace is crazy.
Unfortunately, it seems like he came back worse than when he left. I got the pleasure of being stuck in the front office with him once, when we both got in trouble for different things at around the same time, and ended up sitting in there together. The assistant principal was supposed to give both of us an individual talking to, but it must have been a crazy day because we had to wait for her to get through talking to someone else first.
Okay.
In the span of a few minutes, Jason talked my ear off about the kids he met in the intervention school, like pyromaniacs and drug dealers, and even gang members. They were definitely a bad influence on him, but honestly, I think he should have stayed there. He seemed like he belonged. He talked very highly of his experience, and he said he made friends there, which surprised me. I was actually kind of entertained by the stories of what he got up to with those kids. But then he dropped a piece of information that I knew was bad news.
What?
Jason told me that someone at the intervention school had helped him learn how to make a bomb.
Huh?
Right before I could ask him if he was serious, the assistant principal came out of her office and called Jason in. That was the last time, and really the only time that I ever talked to him.
Oh, hell.
It was really weird, because despite all of the stuff I heard about him, he was actually in a great mood and seemed very happy, even though he was in trouble again. I thought it was possible that he might get better,
Making a
but I realize
bomb?
now the only thing that made him happy was remembering the violent criminals he hung out with and thinking about ways to hurt people. By the third week of school, I'm sure he was dying to get back to that
That's
other
why it's
school.
so important to have at least one of your parents very active in your life, bro. Or shit like this gonna happen every single time.
That's the only reason I can think of for what he did, because otherwise it feels completely unprovoked, unless he really just got a pleasure from doing it. During second period one day, soon after the day I talked to him, he called in a bomb threat. He was apprehended quickly, but he
That
refused
shit
to give
happened
up
a
the
lot my
location of the
junior year, I'm
bomb,
not gonna lie.
so the whole school was evacuated.
Probably like 3-4
I
times
vividly
that
remember
happened.
the feeling of my stomach doing a flip when I saw Jason's clear backpack sitting against the wall of the hallway we were walking through. The inside was stuffed with a garbage bag, so I knew it had to be the bomb. I told one of the administrators, who radioed it in. I felt lucky then that it didn't go off when all those kids were filing out the building, packed in like sardines. I was shaking as I was walking out to the football field, but I was able to get a seat at the bleachers instead of having to stand. We were out there in lockdown mode for hours, baking in the hot sun and just waiting to go back inside.
You really think y'all gonna go back inside after a bomb threat, nigga? No. They sending y'all home, bro. Real
The
shit.
bomb squad had to be called in to take care of the bag, and the whole school had to be swept for other bombs afterwards. I went from being scared to annoyed to bored, and then finally I was restless. I started horsing around with the people sitting next to me, pretending I was getting a heat stroke and needed to lay down. Nobody was buying any of my BS or making any room for me, so as a joke, I laid down across their feet. It was all pretty funny, and they were kicking me and laughing, but while I was down there, I saw something that petrified me. Something was taped to the bottom of the seat right in front of my face. I pushed a kid's legs apart to get a better look, and of course, he thought I was being weird until he saw the look on my face.
Oh shit.
He was sitting right on top of a bomb. It was a box wrapped in duct tape. with a
Nah,
note
bro.
that said,
Imagine that shit
"This
go
is
off.
the real one, I swear." I flipped out and jumped from the bleachers, twisting my ankle and causing a massive panic as everyone caught wind of the danger and fled all at once. With nowhere safe to run and 1,000 kids running out of control, the whole situation was almost disastrous. A couple freshmen got trampled and ended up with broken bones.
Damn.
Kids hopped the fences and ran out into the road, swarmed into nearby shops, and a lot of kids took the opportunity to just run all the way home.
Hell yeah, Nate.
By the time the panic stopped, the school was basically deserted. I'm sure if Jason ever found out, he would die of laughter. What really makes it embarrassing, though, is the fact that it was all fake. None of the bombs were real. The thing is, Jason was totally smart enough to make real bombs and actually kill people. And the only reason he didn't was because his goal wasn't to go to prison for a bunch of years, but to go to juvie or another intervention school.
I mean, at least
All
they were
that fear and
fake,
panic
but
and wasted time was just part of a sick joke Jason was playing.
that nigga need
What makes
help.
me shudder is knowing that if he had decided to go through with it, a lot of people would have died, and I would have very likely been one of them. Nobody was prepared for the threat. He pointed out a gigantic weakness in the school's response. His placements would have been extremely deadly if they weren't just fake bombs. I don't know where Jason is now, but I hope he stays far away from me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, man, that he gonna have to go to a psych ward, get some therapy or something, bro. Specifically, put
I
that
live
nigga
in
in a
Oklahoma,
straitjacket.
right in the middle of Tornado
bro.
Alley. Extreme weather drills have been a frequent part of school life for
What'd he
decades.
say?
Ellie. Extreme weather drills have been a frequent part of school life for decades, long before kids had to deal with all the other emergency drills. I went to middle school back in the 90s, and I have clear memories of huddling on the floor in the interior hallways of my school, with
Hell
the
yeah,
lights
hey.
off and my butt basically sticking up in the
Hell yeah, I was just about to say something about that. What was the point of those tornado drills, bro? Having every student in the school in the hallway with their asses tooted up, doggy style. Pause. Like what was the point of that, bro? Niggas ass cracks all out and shit. Like what the tornado gonna do? Just come through the hallway and be like, oh nah, they got their asses tooted up. Nah, I ain't fucking with them. Nigga, what?
At
Like,
least once a
bruh,
month for years.
hell no. I never
As a
understood that
girl, I always
whatsoever.
felt uncomfortable,
Like that tornado
like
ain't
I was
gonna rip through the
exposing
school and
myself
take
to
us
all the
with him.
teachers that were walking down the hall. But no matter what I said, I would be forced to follow instructions. I came to dread the extreme weather lockdowns more than the idea of a deadly tornado itself. A tornado might hit nearby once in a blue moon, but I felt like I had no choice
Won't
but to
really get
moon all the
bad weather
weirdest
down here in
teachers at
Virginia,
school
though.
every month.
Like mainly just flooding for real.
Even worse, the lockdowns actually happened more often than that, because real extreme weather situations are very common during certain times of the year. One day in
Bro,
May of my 7th grade
do
year,
they even still do
such a
tornado
situation
drills?
occurred. At the time, my classroom
They
was one of the
shouldn't. I'ma
temporary
keep it a buck,
buildings they
'cause,
put
like,
up around.
What's going, like, this is supposed to stop a tornado from coming through the school? Like real shit. I understand they probably like try to protect like your head and shit from getting hit from stuff that's falling from the ceiling. But bro, what the fuck? Like all that shit gonna hit your back and everything, bro. Like, come on, gang. I never understood that. Now, how none of that seems like more, you know what I'm saying, more suited for this.
On the school to alleviate overcrowding. Everyone called them portables, but they
Look at the
weren't
teachers
portable.
just staring at
They were
kids'
just flimsy
asses and shit.
buildings. The procedure for anyone who found themselves in a portable at the time of a weather emergency was to immediately evacuate and take shelter in the main building of the school, leaving everything behind, including backpacks.
Okay.
Everybody got on the ground and covered their heads with their hands and sat in the most uncomfortable, awkward, and questionable position for
Hell
much
yeah.
longer than we usually did in the drills. The teachers told us there was an extreme cyclonic thunderstorm with a high probability to produce tornadoes,
Damn.
heading straight for us, and that we wouldn't be allowed to get up and go back to class until it passed by.
It's tough.
All of that was incomprehensible jargon to me at the
Bro,
time.
we never used our
But they are
lockers
words
in
I
high
have since
school,
learned
bro.
to take seriously.
At all, gang.
Most of the time, those lockdowns felt ridiculous and overdone.
Facts.
But that day, as the howling winds grew louder and the haunting wail of the tornado sirens droned on, and the chit-chat stopped, and a real sense of dread clouded over us. Initially, there was a morbid anticipation mixed in with it. I was a little excited to experience a real storm without having to be concerned about my home getting destroyed. I didn't care if the school got wrecked as long as I didn't get hurt, but it seemed
Damn.
unlikely that it would be like that. There was a part of me that actually hoped there would be a tornado. It would make showing my rear end to the weird chorus teacher worth it. That
Yeah,
hope didn't
bro.
last long, however. It was already dark inside, because the lights were off. But at the start, there was still natural light coming in from outside. Over the course of mere minutes, the storm began to block out the sun, until it felt like an unnatural night had descended upon the world. The winds continued to get stronger, shaking the doors like the storm itself was trying to beat its way in. Then the hail came, smacking against the door like a volley of meteors.
Damn.
Before long, the once quiet, hushed hallway was afflicted with a cacophony of noise. Fear gripped everyone. It was palpable. That's when the telltale sound whispered into our ears. Quiet at first. The low, grumbling, growing roar of rushing winds like a passing freight train, steadily intensifying.
Wait,
The
hold
alarm
up.
of the monster.
Why the teachers never had to do this shit? Cause like every time we did drills like this, the teachers never had to do it. But why we had to do it? Some don't seem right with that. I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Strong near. It was undeniable by then, even if we couldn't see it, that a tornado was on the ground and not far away. And with every passing second, it seemed more and more certain that it would hit us directly. A lot of kids started to cry. The teachers yelled at us to stay calm, but they couldn't conceal the
How
fear
the
in
fuck?
their
How
voices.
the fuck kids supposed
When the walls
to
started
stay
to
calm,
shake,
bro?
they finally took cover
It's a
too.
damn tornado. Like they
For a
don't. They
few
really
minutes,
don't know
we were
if
all
they gonna live or
equalized
not.
in this compromising position that was supposed to keep us safe. And now nobody had to be worried about anyone peeping at their crack. We all had greater concerns. The air itself vibrated at the frequency of a tornado. I could feel it in my chest. Outside, I heard carnage and destruction. debris slamming into the doors just to fly off into the distance in the next instant.
That shit gotta be a terrifying
It was like the world was
experience,
getting
bro.
shoved into
Especially
a
as
wood
little
chipper.
kid.
The most terrifying moment was when the windows couldn't take the stress anymore and shattered.
Ooh.
A torrent of air rushed into the hall. The storm had finally found its way inside, and there's no more escaping it. It felt inevitable that the whole school was about to be ripped off its foundation, and all of us flung into the sky along with it. I clenched my teeth, and I prayed. I'm sure we
That's
all
all you
prayed.
can do at that point, bro.
Somehow, by God's grace, it worked. Just when we thought it was about to stomp on our heads, it began to grow quieter. At last, we could all breathe a sigh of relief. Over the next few minutes, all the growing signs of danger that preceded the tornado reversed and undid themselves, until the sun shined once again and the air was still. After waiting several more minutes to be safe, the lockdown was finally lifted, and we could stand up. My legs and back were sore, but I was unscathed.
Do the kids
The
get to
school
go
was
home?
intact, and I could go back to class and get my stuff. Except that wasn't entirely true. The main building was damaged, but still standing, I guess. But as I walked outside to the field of portables, I witnessed the true devastation that had just unfolded.
Damn.
The portables were just gone. Besides a bit of rubble and some pipes sticking out the ground, there wasn't a single trace left of them. Not even cinder blocks remained. Everything I had in my bag was erased. My scrapbook, my notebooks, my diary, all of it taken far away with no hope of having it returned. Knowing that if I had stayed in my classroom during the tornado, that I would surely have been utterly destroyed along with it, put a feeling in my chest I'll never forget. It's hard to describe realizing you've come so close to death at such a young age. Ever since then, I've never taken the threat of severe weather lightly. It is a part of my life in Tornado Alley, but I was born and raised in Oklahoma, and it's where I will stay.
Damn, man. Shit. Hey, man, y'all let me know what other, you know what I'm saying, creepy horror videos I want to react to, bro. Have y'all ever experienced a tornado? Because I haven't. Like, probably the worst weather I probably experienced, it's like, it's probably just bad flooding, bro. Because Virginia, we don't really get horrible weather like that down here, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, if a hurricane happen, we just get, like, the rain of it, you know what I'm saying? We just get the heavy rain and shit. But we don't really get bad weather like that down here. But y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. You know what I'm saying? Without further ado, I'm out.